Hello, dear students in grade 7. This is lecture 10 in mathematics, and the title of this lesson is Decimals and Fractions. We have seen most of the things in this lesson before in grade 4, grade 5, and grade 6, but we are going to repeat this information because they are very important to remind you of. What are the objectives of our lesson? Number one, identify and define decimal numbers and decimal fractions. Number two, change a decimal number into a decimal fraction and vice versa. Also, a decimal fraction to a decimal number. Number three, perform division to find the quotient of two numbers. Number four, change some fractions into decimal fractions. Number five, write a decimal number in expanded form. Six, write a periodic number as a fraction. Number seven, how we calculate percentages. First, what's a decimal fraction? A fraction, in general, it is numerator over denominator. But when we talk about a decimal fraction, it is a fraction where its denominator is 10, 100, 1000, 10,000, which we call powers of 10. For example, 4 over 10 is a decimal fraction since the denominator is 10. 59 over 1000, 146 over 100. A fraction is decimal if the division of a numerator by denominator is limited or finishes, or the remainder is equal to 0. For example, if I give you the fraction 3 over 4, if I divide, making the division, or on my calculator, 3 divided, what do we mean by 3 over 4? Which means 3 over 4. It's equal to 0.75. Then I say, since the quotient or the answer of division finishes, it doesn't continue, and my remainder of division is 0, then the fraction 3 over 4 is a decimal fraction. It can be written as a decimal fraction, and we will learn in our lecture now how we write a fraction of denominator 4 as a decimal fraction. Now, what is a decimal number? It is a number formed of digits 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, with a point in between. This point splits the number into two parts. To the left, we have the whole part of units, starting from near the point ones, tens, hundreds, 1000, etc. To the right, in the decimal part, the units starting near the point are tenth, hundredth, 1000th. For example, if I take 28.064, 28 is a whole part, 0.064 is a decimal part. 8 is ones, 2 is tens. 0 is tenth, 6 is hundredth, and 4 is thousandth. Now, how we change a decimal fraction into a decimal number, we follow these steps. First, we write the number in the numerator as it is. For example, if I'm given 73 over 10, so simply I write 73. Now, I know that 73 is a whole number, so it is 73.0 because all whole numbers are 0.0. So in any whole number, the point is to the right of all the points, so of all the digits. So I put my finger to the right of all the digits. Now I look at the denominator and I see how many zeros do I have. If I have 1 0, so my finger, I move it to the left 1 digit, so it becomes 7.3. 95 over 1000, also I write 95. I put my finger to the right and I look at the denominator. Since I have 1000, so 3 zeros, so I move my finger to the left 3 digits. 1, 2, 3, then I write 0.0, so 0.095. Now, how we change a decimal number into a decimal fraction? So if I have a decimal number and I want to write a decimal fraction, first, since I'm writing a fraction, I write the line of a fraction, this. Now, to know the denominator, I count how many digits I have in the decimal part. So since I have 2 digits, I write 10, 100. If I have 1 digit, I write 10. If I have 3 digits, I write 1000. To know the numerator, I write all the given number as it is, but without the point. Okay, so I got decimal fractions. Some fractions are not written as decimal fractions, but can be changed, or we can write them as decimal fractions. Any fraction having denominator 5. For example, if I have 7 over 5, since the denominator is 5, we can change 5 into 10. How? We multiply 5 by 2, so also we multiply the numerator by 2. Whatever we do for the denominator, we should do for the numerator. So now 5 times 2 is 10, and if I have 7, 7 times 2 is 14. So 14 over 10 is a decimal fraction. Any fraction of denominator 2 is also changed to 10. We multiply by 5 up and down. Any fraction of denominator 4 is changed into 100, so we multiply both by 25. Also, if the denominator is 25, we can change it into 100. We multiply up and down by 4. If the denominator is 8, so we multiply by 125 to become 1000. And if it is 125, it becomes 1000. We multiply both by 8. If you see here, we have 5, it becomes 10. We multiply by 2. 2 becomes 10. We multiply by 5, the opposite. So now, if it is 20, it becomes 100. We also multiply by 5 both. And so on. So if I gave you a fraction which is 7 over 5 and I wanted you to write it as a decimal number, so first we should write it as a decimal fraction. I say since the denominator is 5, 5 is changed into 10. So 5 times 2 is 10, then 7 times 2 is 14. Now the decimal fraction 14 over 10, we can change it into a decimal number. We write 14 as it is. As we learned before, we put our finger to the right, then we move it 1 digit to the left since it is over 10. So I get 1.4. And this is another example. Now, if we are given two numbers, A and B, then the quotient of A by B. What do we mean by quotient? Quotient is the answer of division. So then the quotient of A by B is the answer of division. If we divide A by B, we get the quotient. The fractional writing is, so if I say A divided by B, also I can write it as a fraction, A over B. So A over B means A divided by B. So if we divide A by B, we get an answer of division, which we call it the quotient. Don't forget this word. After division, the quotient of the two numbers might be first, a whole or a natural number. The division ends and the remainder is 0. So if I divide 72 by 4, I get the quotient is 18 and the remainder is 0. So 18 is a natural or a whole number. The quotient can be a decimal number. Division ends and the remainder is 0. 135 divided by 8. So the answer is, or the quotient, 16.875 and the remainder is 0. So this is a decimal number since the division ends. The decimal number, it can be a number, a decimal number with repetition, which we call it a periodic number. This division never ends and the remainder is never 0. So if I divide 98 by 6, I get 16.33333. So this number is not a decimal number. We call it a periodic number since a digit in it is repeating. It never ends. So we can write this in an easier way, which is 16.3 bar. So whenever I see a digit with a dash above it, this is read 3 bar. What does this mean? 3 is repeated. And as I said, the remainder is different from 0. Now, how we write a decimal number in expanded form? How? Written as a sum of a whole number and a decimal fraction. So here I should split the decimal number into two parts, the whole part alone and the decimal part alone. The whole part I leave it as it is, and every digit in the decimal part I put it according to its unit. What does this mean? When I talk about the digit tenth, I write it over 10, hundredth over 100, thousandth over 1000. For example, 47.932. 47, you see how I split my number? 47 is the whole part, 932 is the decimal part. So I write 47 plus. 9 is in the tenth. So I write 9 over 10 plus. 3 is in the hundredth. So I write 3 over 100. 2 is in the thousandth. So I write plus 2 over 1000. 0.406. 0 is the whole part. No need to write 0 plus. So I directly start 4 over 10 since it is in the 10th. No need to write 0 over 100 since it is 0. So I write directly 6 over 1000. This form, we call it expanded form. Now, what are rational numbers? A rational number is a number that can be written in the form of a fraction a over b. So any fraction, I can write it in the any number written in the form of a fraction, we call it rational. For example, a decimal number 2.4, this is a number. Can we write it as a fraction? Yes, since it is a decimal number, we can write it as a decimal fraction, and we learned before how we do this. So we wrote it 24 over 10. So a decimal number is a rational number. A natural number is also a decimal number, or a whole number is also a rational number. Why? So 7, I said before, any whole number is 0.0. So 7 is written as 7 over 1. It's written as a fraction, so it's also a rational number. Finally, a number whose decimal part is periodic and unlimited, for example, 2.3333. 2.3 bar. How do we write it as a fraction? I split between the whole part and the period. So the whole part is 2, I write 2 plus. Here the period is 1 digit, 3. So always when the period is 1 digit, I write the period over 9. If the period is 2 digits, I write the period over 99. Now I have addition of fractions here, 2 plus 3 over 9. Of course, this is 2 over 1. So we change them into like fractions, and I get 18 over 9 plus 3 over 9 is 21 over 9. All my fractions should be irreducible. So if I divide up and down by 3, so my fraction is 7 over 3. What are irrational numbers? A number whose decimal part is unlimited or does not end and it's not periodic is an irrational number, like the pi that we learn in the circle. Pi equal 3.1415927. It's never periodic and it never ends, so this is an irrational number. Methods to recognize if a fraction is decimal or not. How can we know if a fraction is decimal or not? Simplify the fraction until it becomes irreducible. Number 2, reduce the fraction. Write the denominator of the obtained fraction as a product of prime factors. If the only 2 or 5 are obtained as prime factors, then the fraction is decimal. Now, change a periodic number into a fraction again. For example, if we have a periodic number 3.2222, this is written 3.2 bar. So I should write this periodic number as a fraction. As I said, I split between the whole part and the period. So I write 3 plus. When the period is 1 digit, I write 2 over 9. This is a rule. So I change now these two fractions, 3/1 plus 2/9. I write them as like fractions. So I multiply 3/1 by 9. I get 27/9 plus 2/9. It's 29/9. It's irreducible, so this is our answer. So 3.22222 is 29/9. Now, if you take your calculator and you divide 29 by 9, your answer will be 3.22222. Now, the periodic number 7.151515. As you can see, it's the period here is 15. So we write 7.15 bar. The bar is above the 15 because this is the period. Now let's change it into a fraction. 7 plus 15/99. Why 99? Since the period is 2 digits, we write it over 99. When it is 1 digit is over 9, 2 digits over 99. And we continue. 0.282, 282, etc. The period here is 282. It is a 3 digits. So when it is a 3 digits, we write it over 999 and we calculate. 24.6 bar is 24 plus 6/9 and we continue. Now, if we have 1.121212, 2 digits, the period, so we write 1 plus 12/99. So this slide is very important, okay? Practice it, please. Now, how we calculate percentages. What are percentages? Percentages are numbers which are expressed as a fraction of 100 with respect to 100. Percent means number of parts per 100. The symbol we use for percent is the percent sign. This sign is called the percent sign. How to calculate percentages? To calculate a percentage, it's part over total times 100. Whatever your fraction is, if you multiply it by 100, you get a percentage. For example, 5/8 is the fraction. If I multiply by 100, so it becomes a percentage. Of course, these are two fractions multiplication. I write 100/1. So numerator times numerator, 5 times 100, over denominator times denominator, 8 times 1. So I reduce and I get 62.5%. 20% of 45, what does this mean? It is 20/100 times 45. 20% means 20 of 100. So the percentage is written as a fraction of 100. Also over 1, and we get 9. Now, if I have a percentage and I want to write it as a fraction, simply 43% is 43 out of 100. 1% is 1 out of 100. 18% is 80 out of 100. So this was our lecture for this week. Please watch the lecture well. And if you have any concerns or any questions about the lecture, please contact me directly. Thank you.